Hello and welcome back to the Formula 1 chat. It's that time of the year again where we're going to be running through our 2024 driver lineups predictions, which are based off our predictions last week, so check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, these will inevitably be massively wrong because we're basing them off predictions we did a week ago, which are also going to be wrong. So yeah, if any of these are right, that will be a minor miracle. Where do you want to start from? Do you want to start from the back of the grid or from the front of the grid?
Start from the back. I think that makes it more interesting.
Alright, get then to the sort of interesting end towards the end of the video. Fair enough. Keep the people watching.
Exactly.
Start with Williams then. They were bottom of constructors last season. This year they line up with Albon and Sargent. Do you see that changing in 2024?
No, I don't. And I think before we get into it, I think some of these predictions will make sense only because of our predictions last week. So if you haven't watched that video, make sure to go watch it, see what we thought was going to happen this season's championship. Going into next season though, I think Williams will keep the same drivers of Albon and Sargent because, I think Williams going to have a great season in 2023.
Well, yeah,
I think they want to push on in 2024.
From last week, it seemed like Williams were going to win the Constructors' World Championship. But I think there will be change at Williams in 2024. I think Albon will be okay. I think Albon's going to stick around, but I think Logan Sargent will be dropped.
Never.
I think it will be Jack Doohan and Alexander Albon in the Williams. There's some logic to this. Now, I don't think Sargent is going to have a particularly bad season. I think he'll have a mess season. I think the Williams will be very uncompetitive. But when Doohan wins the Formula 2 championship, no, I won't give away our Formula 2 predictions, they'll be out in a couple of weeks. But when Doohan does well in the Formula 2 championship, I think Alpine will want to get him into Formula 1. But I think both the Alpine drivers will do alright, so they'll be able to give him to Williams. And for Williams, that little bit of extra cash that they can get from bringing in Doohan and not having to pay Sargent's salary, I think that does well. I think that's harsh on Sargent, but that's the nature of Formula 1.
Does the money from the amount of money they'll make in America, does that not make more money than what Alpine would give them?
I don't think so. I don't think because
really? 3 American races as well.
I don't think you make 2 mil though, which is what they'll be paying.
Well he does,
I don't know what Sargent's
I think Williams will get a race win. So
yeah, maybe they will then if it's your. But I don't think they'll make that much off.
You better have Logan Sargent in another seat in somewhere on the grid.
I think he might have a reserve seat. On to the next one then. What team do you want to look at next?
I said AlphaTauri.
Yeah, alright.
This is an interesting one because, again, if you saw my predictions last week, I think they're going to be the worst team on the grid next year. I think they're really going to struggle. I think because of that, they're going to want a full new driver lineup.
Well, obviously, we know Yuki Tsunoda is out of contract in 2023, so if he does underperform, that sort of makes sense that he might be dropped. Nick De Vries, though, does have contract until 2024. He has been given a 2-year deal. So you're saying they're going to rip that up?
I do. I think Tsunoda.
Is he getting a step up?
I think Tsunoda will be completely out of a place in Formula 1.
Wow.
I think De Vries will have a place somewhere else, but we'll get onto that later. Now, you might think, bad season, they need some experience. I think they'll do the opposite. The amount of Red Bull rookies that are going to be flying high in the F2 Championship. Yeah. And I've gone for Yumo Wasa, so they're keeping the Japanese contingent in there, and then Isaac Hadjar. Getting
That's an interesting
back-to-back step up that Oscar Piastri didn't get, but I think Piastri's going to prove in 2023.
I just don't see Hadjar getting that step up instantly. I don't think he's going to get the super license points. I don't think he's going to be in the top 5 of the championship.
I think he will.
I look at both the Premers. I mean, we'll talk about our F2 predictions in a few weeks, obviously, but I think both the Premers. I think Théo Pourchaire in his ART will be right up there. I think obviously Jack Doohan in the UNI. I think there's going to be a lot of competition at the front. It'll be interesting to see.
So quick,
I've gone for some different drivers though. I've gone for Nick De Vries, keeping his seat. I think he'll do just enough, but I think they will lose patience with Yuki Tsunoda and they'll go and pick up Enzo Fittipaldi, a Red Bull rookie, currently in the Carlin team in Formula 2. I think he could come 3rd in the championship and get a super license that way.
That is true.
Or he could come like 4th or 5th and rack up some super license points either in other series or by competing.
Rally, doesn't he, as well?
I'm not aware, but
I thought he did.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I think he could easily rack up those super license points. I think he will get top 5 in F2. Sorry, give him quite a few super license points.
Fair enough. Haas.
Yeah,
I have
Haas
up
up next. I don't think there'll be much change at Haas. I think they're going to have a good year, so I'll happily go first.
There'll be one change. Okay, no, sorry, you go first.
Yeah, I'm unchanged. Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg. I think they'll do enough. I think they're going to be very competitive in the midfield, as I said last week. So I can't really see much change there, unless they can somehow get Colton Herta, or if Hulkenberg was trying to perform, I could see Logan Sargent taking that seat. They might see the appeal of American driver in an American team, but I don't think there's enough appeal there. I think it's more likely we'll see Herta if Andretti come, and I think Sargent will either stay at Williams or look for Andretti. I don't really... Yeah. Unless he has a stellar year, which you're predicting, in which case he might end up in a Mercedes or something.
I'd love that. I think there'll be one change at the American outfit. I think Kevin Magnussen will stay. He's looked brilliant since coming back to Formula 1. I think he's going to have another good season next year.
Yeah.
Sadly, I don't think Nico Hulkenberg's going to cut it. I think he'll go being back to one race wonder, reserve driver that gets swooped in when the driver gets ill or injures themselves. And I think it'll be the man that was rumoured so many times last year with so many different teams to fill their seats. Theo Pourchaire.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a rogue shout. I would not have, because obviously Pourchaire isn't like Ferrari Driver Academy or anything. He is Alfa Romeo's. He's in Alfa Romeo's academy. So I find it surprising that he'd somehow get moved to Haas. Because if he does have a good enough year in Formula 2, would you not expect him to get the step up to Alfa Romeo's F1 team?
Well, that, I think, actually kind of brings us on nicely to Alfa Romeo. Is a reason that I haven't put him in the Alfa Romeo. I think they'll stick with Zhou Guanyu. He looked really good in his rookie season. I think he'll have another really good second season. But I think they will replace Valtteri Bottas. We proved last year how Bottas... was outperformed by Zhou several times. I think it'll be the same.
I mean, he did score 40, 50 points more than him in the championship. But other than that, Zhou did really
I think
whitewash
this year
him,
he will be outscored in 2023.
Really?
So going into 2024, and this is going to be wrong, but I just kind of like how it sounds. It was Zhou Guanyu and Sergio Perez.
I think Perez Red Bull seat he hasn't got long left right at the top. But I think even if he is to leave, surely he could pick up like an Alpine or a McLaren.
But then I think Alfa Romeo could be quite quick in 2024. But we can predict that in a year.
Yeah, look out for that one. That's going to be a good one. Set your reminders for a year's time. Alfa Romeo, I have gone for Valtteri Bottas staying, and this is where I have Theo Pourchaire. I think he's either going to be the winner or second in the Formula 2 Championship, and I think he'll get his deserved seat. That does mean Zhou Guanyu will be out of the sport. I mean, he won't ever get to do a Chinese Grand Prix. I think he's a fine driver, but you can't really be a fine driver in Formula 1. I guess you can be an okay driver in Formula 1, but he's not consistent enough. He's not dependable enough yet. He'd have to have a very good 2023, considering all the young talent.
He did have a bad 2022, but as you said, it was quite fine. He will need to improve into 2023. But I think it was just weird the way he got promoted. Because where did he finish in that year? In the 2021?
Second.
Yeah, but
behind Oscar Piastri.
That's the thing. I guess that's quite good, actually.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
He was the only one anywhere near.
No one really thought he would get the step up.
No, but obviously coming second in Formula 2 and having the backing that Zhou does, he's got some very rich Chinese investors. I believe his father's quite affluent.
And to be the best, apart from Oscar Piastri, and we know how good Oscar Piastri is.
Yeah.
That's really
I think, obviously, when Zhou came in, a lot of people were going, he's got that seat for the money, Piastri deserves it more and stuff like that. But ultimately, Zhou did prove his worth last year. I just don't think he'll have enough. I don't think he'll do enough in 2023.
Just to touch on why Perez going to Alfa Romeo in 2024, this isn't Perez, this isn't his retirement home. I think, though Zhou and Perez will be battling for points in that Alfa Romeo in 2024. I think they'll be right up there, scoring points, doing well.
I do think that's a very controversial take. But I guess we'll see. Should we get on to Aston Martin?
Yes.
Because I think this is the one team where I go, well, this is pretty much confirmed, isn't it? Aston Martin, Alonso, and
Stroll on a lifetime contract, and we have Fernando Alonso on a 2-year contract.
I just can't see Fernando underperforming, and obviously Stroll's not going anywhere until he gets bored. So, yeah, I think it's harsh because Felipe Drugovich did really, really well in Formula 2 last year, but I actually think the guy he beat to the championship will get a seat before him. Well, yeah, I thought about him, but he's at Aston Martin. I think he'll look at 2025 as his chance to be in Formula 1, which is kind of harsh. It's hard to sit on the sidelines for 2 years.
Well, I guess things like a bit different to Piastri. obviously Djokovic is the reserve driver. He'll get practices. He'll get.
Yeah.
Whereas Piastri,
that was the same as Piastri.
Yeah,
Piastri was
like,
the Alpine reserve driver.
Yeah, but they didn't really get on, did they?
Well, they seemed to. He got a lot of minutes in that
Until
Alpine.
they said he was their driver. And then
he did a lot of testing for Alpine, and he, behind their backs, went and negotiated a deal with McLaren.
Don't blame him.
I mean, no, it makes complete sense. Alpine had no intention of putting him in that seat until Alonso went behind their backs
I don't think
got an Aston Martin drive.
I don't think Djokovic will do the same. I think, as you say, wait in the wings for Fernando Alonso to finish
I don't think he can do the same. I don't look at another team on this grid and go, yeah. Felipe Drugovich is going to go there.
Also, we thought he might go Haas, but then he got swooped up Aston Martin reserve driver. I think there's a career for Djokovic. He's just going to have to wait.
Yeah, I think if Alonso decides to retire after next season, I can't see Alonso leaving this year.
No,
I think seemingly Alonso's on a mission to just outlast Lewis Hamilton, and I think to be fair, I think he could. Which, spoiler for later, but yeah, I think Alonso Stroll makes a lot of sense. Up next, we've got the McLaren team.
Again,
do you see any change?
I don't. I think.
Wow.
I think that, I mean, again, my predictions. I think they got a really strong season, and I think they're going to keep pushing on with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. I think, as I said, Piastri get a win in his debut season. I think he's going to do really, really well, and maybe has the potential to be a world champion one day.
Your predictions are mental.
Okay?
He's not winning a race this season.
Do you think Oscar Piastri could win a world championship?
No.
Really?
I think Piastri's a very capable driver, but I just can't see him beating Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, George. I just can't see him ahead of those guys.
Is the argument there though?
He's definitely got the potential. I just don't think he will.
was the first driver to tear up F3 and F2 since Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen didn't even compete in F2.
Exactly.
But
Max didn't even bother. But apart from Max, who else in the last 5-10 years dominated?
Did Charles not go back to back?
I don't think he did. But then
I can't remember back to his youth career. To be fair,
to be fair, he was. I guess you're right, though, isn't he? Charles was there with Lando, Russell.
Yeah, I think my issue with Piastri is F3 very tight season. He did really well to win that, but in Formula 2 he had no competition.
He was miles off.
As much as he was impeccable, but there was absolutely no one on his level.
His pace is good.
So I find it hard to.
Pace. So I think he could qualify high. Race pace will be interesting.
Yeah, I think Piastri's a very talented driver, and I think he will stay in the McLaren.
He probably will win a race.
I don't think he'll do as well as you think he will. I think he will win a race eventually.
He'll do better than Ricciardo.
He strikes me as a Ricciardo.
I think he'll do better than Ricciardo.
I think he could, similar to Ricciardo, outperform a driver who's better than him first season.
Yeah.
But based on my predictions, I think Norris will finish ahead. Piastri will finish behind by quite a bit. Piastri will keep his seat at McLaren though.
All right.
I don't think Lando Norris is going to be at McLaren in 2024.
Wow.
And I think instead it's going to be Alex Palou coming in from IndyCar. Clearly a very talented driver, has his super license already. He can step in any time he wants. And I think McLaren... I think they'll be scrambling. I don't think they'll be expecting Lando Norris to leave.
No.
And then he will.
I would be very sad.
Yeah, I think Lando Norris won't be at McLaren in 2024.
So that means
he's got to move on for the sake of his career.
Lando Norris at one of the 4 teams remaining.
That is exactly what
it
that
Alpine?
means. Well, Alpine next. What have you gone for?
I've gone for one change, one stay.
Ooh.
I think Esteban Ocon will keep that leader role, the main first driver role at the French outfit. I think Gasly, though, will have a very underwhelming 2023. And, as we've already mentioned a few times, they have a brilliant academy driver waiting in the wings in Jack Doohan to swoop in and become their second driver.
Yeah, I'd love Doohan to be in the Alpine seat next season. I just don't see it happening. Alpine, they waited so long with Piastri. I think they won't make the same mistake with Doohan. And I think instead they'll bring him straight into an F1 seat, but not an Alpine F1 seat.
Yeah.
I think unless Gasly scores no points and crashes the car every week, I just cannot see him being dropped. I think they'll give him 2 years at least.
I think if Doohan wasn't in a UNI, he'd have finished top 3 in the championship last year in F2. And I think he could do the same again. I think he could do the same this year.
Yeah, fair enough. My Alpine team consists of Pierre Gasly, he's sticking around, and Esteban Ocon. Now, with Ocon, I ummed and ahed about putting him in some different seats. One consideration was Ferrari, but I think that partnership's sticking around. I did even look at Red Bull, because I thought, as much as Verstappen and Ocon don't get on, would they just see the talent there and go, you know what, I've got to pick him up? But then I thought I don't think Max would like it.
Ocon's what Red Bull need is like a Perez, like an Albon.
Someone who has, and I think they've got that long-term option in Nick De Vries. I think they're hoping De Vries does well enough in the AlphaTauri over the next 2 years that they can put him in the Red Bull seat, and he'll be more than happy to be Max's backup. I think that suits him ideally. So I don't think Ocon went there. I did look at Ocon to Merc. He does have that link to Toto Wolff. Yeah. But when it comes to a head, I just don't think Ocon will get the nod over a certain other driver. If Lewis was to not be in that seat.
Well, you mentioned Ferrari there. I think we should probably get onto it, saying I think we are...
Ferrari?
Yeah.
All right.
I think we should mention it because I think we agree that it will be Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz remaining.
Yeah, I think obviously last season demonstrated the chemistry between the two of them. They seem a good team there. They've got a good thing going at Ferrari.
I know I predicted them to have a terrible season, but again, I don't think that will be because of the driver. I think that will be because of the team.
And I think you're a waffle merchant. I think Sainz will struggle a bit, but I just don't see who they bring in. Ferrari like to promote from their obviously driver pool. I think they will look to bring in... I think they've got some good talent. Ollie Behrman's coming through, but I don't think he'll be in F1 next year. It's his first year in F2. No, I don't even know if he's allowed to be. Will he? Because I don't think he'll be... Well, no, he is now 17, isn't he? So he will be 18.
Like 16.
Yeah, but then they raised the age limit. You have to now be 18 to compete in Formula 1. So, yeah, I think he will just about be allowed. But, yeah, that was one of the reasons I don't think Maloney...
He's mad, by the way. Just every time I think of it, that Max Verstappen was racing in Formula 1 at 16 years old. It's
absolutely mental. But yeah, I think as for Ferrari, they won't have anyone ready, so they'll stick with Leclerc and Sainz. But I don't think Sainz is. He's a long-term option, but I think they'll find someone better, and eventually Sainz will get binned, unfortunately. But I might be wrong. I think they've got a good thing there, Leclerc and Sainz.
2 teams left then.
Yeah.
First up, Mercedes.
I've still got some big drivers to find some seats, because realistically you look at this as I've got a Norris on the table. I've got a Sargent.
I mean, I've got I think probably my biggest one is who's going to replace Perez, but we'll go through Mercedes first. I think 2023 will be Lewis Hamilton's final year in Formula 1.
I think we're in agreement there. I think this will be his last one.
What a driver. What a legacy.
Well, I mean, the greatest driver in Formula 1 history.
Yeah.
I don't think that's even up for dispute.
I don't think he'll get an 8th. I think he will remain joint with Michael Schumacher on 7.
Yeah.
But I think George Russell will stay, and he'll be the first driver and the team leader to Frederick Vesti.
What were you thinking when you wrote this prediction? Were you thinking?
I think this... I also don't want to ruin my F2 championship predictions.
Yeah. I think Vesti's going to be the sharp end.
I think Vesti,
he might be up there,
the Prema, could be right at the very top.
I thought the same of Dennis Hauger last year, though, and that didn't exactly go to plan. Yeah, that's another candidate we've not even mentioned for the AlphaTauri seat. Yeah. But yeah, Frederick Vesti, first season, a Merc seat. I'd be more expect. I think if
who else would Merc get?
Well, that is what I'm now getting onto. Right. Mercedes, they're going to stick with George Russell, and then they're going to bring in Lando Norris.
I can do.
Yeah, I don't think you've got. I don't think you get say in the matter.
I didn't know, but I couldn't have predicted that.
This just makes so much sense for Mercedes. They clearly like having 2 drivers that are competitive. They've shown it over the years. And to be fair, I don't think Russell is any better than Lando. I think they're very similar.
That would be my thing.
Could create Hamilton-Rosberg sort of vibe.
That would be my thing with Vesti. Is once he's up to speed, we saw how him and Porsche didn't really get on in F2 last year.
I think, you've picked a bit of a rogue shout there.
I don't know if him and Russell would get on.
No, because also I don't think Vesti would understand what Russell's on about. When he starts speaking Tory...
You've got a Tory British man and a Danish driver.
Yeah, let's go your waffle about that.
Knowledge.
I don't see Vesti in there, but I think Lando Norris makes a lot of sense.
This is a bit weird. I know I've gone for a lot of drivers to get that immediate step up from F2 to F1. I've got Vesti, Doohan, Porsche, Iwasa, Hadjar. That's a lot of drivers. Yeah. I think they're all good enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
Now, this is the big one, I think.
It's the last team. Red Bull, I'll go first.
Okay.
Because there's no change for me. Verstappen and Perez have shown to be an incredible partnership. Perez, I believe, still has a year left on his deal, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they'll look at Nick De Vries as a long-term option, but they'll want to give him another year in that AlphaTauri. Not that De Vries is young, but I think he could do a job for 2-3 years, like Perez has, just to support Max, get those championships under the belt. But yeah, I think Perez is the perfect teammate. He's not challenging Max at the sharp end. He brings in some dependable points. He's getting better the more he drives with this Red Bull team stuff. I think he will be. I think I'll have a really good 2023. Or a decent 2023. I don't think it'll be stunning, but I think he will do enough to get himself a 2024 seat. So overall, that leaves me with Zhou out of the sport, and with Lewis Hamilton retiring, and with Sargent out of the sport. I can't think of any. I don't think I've made any other. I don't think I've binned anyone else. I think. Yuki Tsunoda as well.
Yeah. Now,
also out of the sport.
I think there will be change.
What have you done? Because I look at this, who is left? Because unless this is somehow Yuki Tsunoda, but you predicted him to do badly, unless this is like Colton Herta, but I just don't see
I think Max Verstappen will remain, obviously. They're not going to bin him off. And I think Perez will leave. And I think they will promote Daniel Ricciardo from their reserve driver back into the... Call me biased all you want. I love Daniel Ricciardo. But I think reserve driver, I think they'll promote him up to second driver, and I think they'll bring in Nick De Vries as reserve driver, preparing for 2025.
So hang on, he didn't do well enough in the AlphaTauri, so they've gone, you know what, we're going to give you a reserve driver at Red Bull. If they view him as, I don't know, man, I got none of your predictions make any sense.
Or it'll be the way around, and they'll promote De Vries straight away, and keep Ricciardo's reserve driver.
I've just got one question, you need to answer it honestly. Are you on Daniel Ricciardo's PR payroll? Because you have not shut up about it. Like, what is this?
I just really like Daniel. I want him to have a future F1. And I think it will be a Red Bull. I think it will return to the very top.
I cannot fathom what you just said.
Redemption season for Daniel Ricciardo.
Right. Well, that's F1 driver lineups predictions. If either of these are spot on, then we are. Wow, mate, we're ridiculously good.
I'm a bit mental.
You are. There's no chance. Frederick Vesti in the Mercedes and Ricciardo
there is a chance.
in the Red Bull. This isn't the F1 game, mate. You can't just move everyone about.
They are very F1 game predictions.
Yeah.
2025,
completely random. Perez has gone to Alfa Romeo for a laugh. It's just like, what are the... Yeah, you're waffling.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, I hope the season's great. But
that's a year away.
Yeah.
We've got 2023.
Maybe they'll be right. Make sure to tell us what you think of our predictions down in the comments. If you want to tell Harry how his are mental, please make sure to do that.
Right.
And yeah, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. That massively helps us out. We are only 7 subs away from 100 now. Getting very close. Yeah. So yeah, make sure to subscribe, help us on that way. And yeah, that's about all from today though. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.